Hello everyone, I am the storyteller and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from and what time are you watching? Now, get comfortable and relax. The town of Dunwich had one rule. Never go near the last house on Greystone Street after dark. It wasn't an official law, but it was whispered through generations. A quiet warning in coffee shops and town meetings. The house, an old Victorian with peeling paint and windows like empty eye sockets, had stood at the farthest end of the street for over a century. No one had lived there in decades, not since the Wilkerson family vanished one winter night in 1963. The house didn't just sit empty, it waited. Charlie Renshaw, a jaded journalist desperate for a career-saving story, arrived in Dunwich under the guise of researching small-town myths. What he truly sought was something chilling enough to thrust him back into the spotlight. The locals were wary, their gazes shifting when he asked about the house at the end of Greystone Street. "You'd best leave that one alone," the innkeeper warned, but Charlie only smiled. Superstitions made for the best stories. As midnight neared, Charlie made his way through the fog-drenched streets, camera slung over his shoulder. The house loomed at the end of the road. Its silhouette. He hesitated only for a moment before stepping through the rusted gate, feeling an unnatural chill crawl over his skin. The porch groaned under his weight as he pushed the door open. Unlocked, almost inviting. The scent of decay and dust coiled around him like a living thing. The parlor was frozen in time. Old furniture draped in sheets, a grandfather clock that had stopped at 3:13 a.m., and the faint scent of something burnt. As he clicked on his recorder, a whispering noise slithered through the silence. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the settling of old wood. The whispers carried his name. He swung his camera toward the staircase, where a shadow shifted, just out of reach of his flashlight. Almost human. Almost. Heart hammering, Charlie ascended, each step creaking beneath his weight. At the top, a long hallway stretched ahead, its walls lined with old portraits. Their faces were blurred, features melting as if the paint had been smeared by unseen hands. A door at the end of the hallway was slightly ajar, revealing darkness beyond. Charlie hesitated before stepping forward. The floor was unnaturally cold beneath his feet. Something giggled behind him. He spun around, camera shaking. A child's doll lay at the threshold of a door that hadn't been there before. Its button eyes were black and endless, grinning up at him. Then it blinked. Charlie stumbled backward, breath hitching in his throat. The whispers grew louder, pressing against his skull. "You shouldn't be here." The words were clear now, spoken in a voice that scraped like nails on glass. The walls groaned, the wallpaper peeling in strips to reveal something pulsing beneath. Faces stretched against the rotting wood, their mouths open in silent screams. The Wilkersons, their eyes locked onto him, pleading. Then, the door behind him slammed shut. Panic surged as Charlie lunged for the handle. It wouldn't budge. The air thickened, pressing against his lungs. His flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that twisted and crawled. A mirror at the end of the hall reflected not his own trembling form, but something else. Something tall and distorted, its mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. It lifted a skeletal hand and pointed at him. Then it stepped out of the reflection. Charlie screamed, kicking at the door as the thing slithered closer. He turned, searching for another exit, but the hallway had shifted. The doors were gone. The wallpaper had melted into a churning black void. His camera sparked, the screen filling with static before a single image appeared. A newspaper clipping dated 1963. The local family vanishes without a trace. House condemned. Beneath the headline was a photograph of the Wilkersons, and a shadow lurking behind them. The same shadow that now stood inches from Charlie. The house whispered, its voice inescapable. "Stay." The word was a command, sinking into his bones. He felt himself slipping, his mind unraveling. But he wasn't ready to become another ghost story. With a final desperate effort, he hurled himself toward the only remaining window and crashed through the glass, tumbling into the freezing night air. The street was silent. The town was still. He turned back, gasping for breath. The house stood as it always had, unchanged. But as he staggered away, he realized something chilling. The streetlights flickered out one by one, and the whispers followed him. Epilogue. Charlie left Dunwich, but Dunwich never left him. He tried to move on, to rationalize what he had seen. But in the dead of night, he still heard the voices. His reflection sometimes moved when he didn't, and in every photograph he took, there was always a shadow just behind him. The house at the end of Greystone Street remained, its hunger never ending, its doors always open for those who dared to ignore the warnings. Dunwich had one rule: never go near the last house on Greystone Street after dark. And now, Charlie knew why.